Hello and welcome to the panel discussion on real-time payments, making money move for consumers and businesses. I'm Omaya Robinson. I'm the Executive Manager of eCommerce for the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. I've been involved in payments and technology for many years and really driven by solving problems for consumers and businesses. Today, we are joined on the panel by three experts, and the first expert that we will be joining us is Matt Barr. Welcome, Matt. Matt is the Chief Product Officer of eftpos Payments Australia. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Matt. Good to be part of the discussion today. Maybe just quickly about eftpos. We're actually Australia's. We describe ourselves as Australia's original fintech. So it's a business that's been around since the early 80s and is Australia's domestic debit payment network. We've traditionally been about in-store payments, but rapidly moving into online payments. And actually the business's vision is about moving ourselves to the centre of Australia's digital economy. And I'm sure we'll talk a bit later about some of those exciting developments. But anyway, great to be on the panel.
Thanks, Matt. And we're all dialing in on this panel. So where are you dialing in from, Matt?
Nicely settled at my home in Lindfield, Sydney. Very nice
part of Sydney. Thank you, Matt. Our next panelist is Katrina Stuart, Head of Engagement for MPP. How are you today, Katrina?
I'm great, thanks, Omaya, and thanks for having me along today. So I work for New Payments Platform Australia, which is the real-time payments infrastructure that supports real-time payments between bank accounts, similar to Fast that operates in Singapore.
Very nice to meet you. And where are you dialing in from, Katrina?
I'm back in the office, it's very exciting. So in the middle of Sydney.
Cool, very cool. Hopefully it starts to become busy in the CBD soon. And Chris Jewell, CEO of Zepto. Now I hear, Chris, that you are calling us today from an iconic location in New South Wales. Can't wait to hear where you are calling us from. How are you today, Chris?
Thanks, Omaya. Yeah, it's good to be here. We're calling, our business is based on the most easterly point of the continent in a place called Byron Bay. So Zepto is a account-to-account real-time payments business, which with open banking capabilities that enhance that. We aren't consumer facing, so we power merchants, so we're B2B, B2C focused. And we're a team of around 52 people now, and half of which are based here at the headquarters in Byron Bay. But it's great to be on the panel. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And definitely Byron Bay is one of my favourite places in New South Wales to visit. So we're going to kick off with our first question. Katrina, over to you. So Katrina, what is the role of the MPP in real-time payments for Australia?
So the MPP was designed and built as modern payments infrastructure that supports real-time account-to-account payments here in the marketplace. And it's intended to be able to be used in a variety of different ways to support a range of different use cases. So whether I'm a retail banking customer making a payment, or I'm a business that wants to make a payment to another business, or a government agency making a payment out to a citizen, that can be used as the infrastructure to enable those account-to-account payments. And our focus is really about, as the platform operator, how do we make sure we've got the right capability in place that's going to enable a range of different payment product and service offerings. So whether it's a bank and what they offer in terms of their payment services to their customers, or it's third parties like Zepto and how they might use the infrastructure, and how it might also integrate to other payment solutions that are offered directly to customers, such as a digital wallet, for example, or buy now, pay later solution.
Thank you very much. And Chris, how will your organisation and its role in real-time payments for Australia?
Yeah, and I guess the way we see it is that we're democratizing the tools that merchants really need to build innovative payment solutions, and we leverage the MPP, or the New Payments Platform that Katrina mentioned there, to be able to provide that. And I think part of the way we see it at the moment is that the prevailing payment infrastructure of today is really, well, in our opinion, failing to deliver on the promises of tomorrow, and quite often. And Zepto's tackling that head on by leveraging the power now through real-time payments and the MPP to provide merchants with a composable, I guess, layer of cheaper, faster, more dynamic payment experiences that are all delivered via a fully automated API.
Thank you, Chris. Sounds amazing. I'll have to give you a call later and learn more about your product for my own business. And Matt, eftpos and its role in real-time payments. Very keen to hear what eftpos is doing.
Yeah, well, eftpos actually, as I commented earlier, has been around since the 80s. And interestingly, from a consumer's perspective, was always technically real time. Now, real time is often a reference used to account-to-account based services, but in a carded world, you can also have real time, and our architecture does that from a consumer and effectively from a merchant's perspective on the same day. And it's technically, very quickly, it's because we're a single message network versus what the MasterCard Visa does, which is a dual message network. And what that means is, when you're a consumer on a MasterCard Visa debit transaction, it shows up as pending in your account. When it's on our network, it's cleared straight away. So from a consumer's perspective, we are real time. And there's some technical back-end stuff, so the banks might settle the next day, but from a consumer's perspective, it's real-time funds and within hundreds of milliseconds. So our network has that capability. And recently, we actually launched the support for digital transactions for funds movement. So fast funds, as we refer to it. And so it supports both person to person, but also business disbursements, and with that same real-time characteristic. So I think we end up providing choice for how consumers and merchants want to sort of participate in modern payments, leveraging these kind of faster transaction messages. So curiously, we've always been real time, and I think now with our upgrade in digital, we could start supporting a lot more digital use cases, which is obviously what the market's interested in.
Yeah, and no doubt we'll hear more about those across this panel shortly. So, Chris, in your business, what and the solutions that you're bringing to market, how will they benefit consumers and businesses?
Well, I think when it comes to real-time payments or for payments in general, you can pay out in real time as a merchant. You can receive in real time as a merchant, and excitingly, as of June next year, you'll be able to collect in real time as a merchant through the PayTo product that we'll talk about a little bit later. It's interesting when we unpack. We obviously a merchant-facing organisation, but we've recently been doing some consumer roundtables to sort of understand a little bit more about consumer habits for the verticals that we're looking to go after. And it's just amazing to see the awareness, I guess, around consumers and the way that they think about, being able to acquire or get refunds from a merchant in real time, or to be able to pay in real time and see that reconciled in real time, and the loyalty that they will attach to merchants that can offer them that. So again, from our point of view, it's enabling our merchants to be able to go further into that segment and to be able to provide engagement, a digital engagement with their consumers 365 days a year, 24/7, each day. So it's extremely powerful. On the business side, I think, again, our business merchant customers are looking at, enhancing that customer experience with their consumer through what we just talked about. They're looking at greater data insights that they get through real-time payments and how that may inform, and those insights may inform them to make different decisions in real time. And equally, the cost efficiencies that come with that. So, there are plenty of examples now where real-time messaging is coming in. It means that you can potentially look at, cost transformation within your business as well. So there's so many upsides. And again, the adoption around real-time payments at the moment is still early and growing. And I think the awareness in the merchant space in particular, as that awareness grows, we'll continue to see adoption just kick in.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I really like the example used around refunds, being in e-commerce refunds and, returning goods because they don't fit you is a real use case that merchants always struggle with, but so do consumers. So a very nice problem to solve for both consumers and merchants. So Matt, eftpos's response and how they will be supporting and benefiting consumers and merchants with your technology.
Yeah, I'll probably first comment. I think if in a digital world, if it's not real time, it's broken in the minds of consumers and merchants. There's absolutely no reason why things can't be real time, and certainly there's a lot of energy going on I guess different infrastructures to do that. And so from a consumer's perspective, it's about staying in control and knowing, you know, where you are with your money, which is really important. So whenever there's kind of this disconnect between the cash I've got versus the cash I've got available on my account because someone's doing something in the background, like that doesn't fill anyone with confidence. So I think for consumers, it's about staying in control. And we've had a long relationship with actually Medicare refunds in Australia, where if you're at a practitioner and you've got a medical refund, the eftpos network has been used to make those refunds back into consumers' accounts. So there's the network's been doing it. And as I said, as we get into digital, it becomes a lot more interesting, a lot more different use cases. I think for merchants in the end, it's going to be about cash flow uncertainty as well. And as Chris was saying about the experiences that you can support and engagement, which if real time is going to be a better experience. There is an interesting challenge with businesses, which is a lot of their practices actually set up around batch processes and settlement and reconciliation. So you've got to be a bit thoughtful with how these services do get commercialized for major merchants, because seeing every transaction in real time could actually not solve a problem for them, but actually create a different problem. So they've got to be a bit thoughtful on the merchant settlement side. But at the end of the day, it's about cash flow. And if you're getting that cash in the door same day, then fantastic, it helps you run my business more efficiently. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I just come back to if in a digital world, it's not real time, it's broken. And I think it's the onus is on all of us as network providers to help solve those problems.
Thanks, Matt, very interesting around real time and, you know, to what degree or which elements of the value chain need to be real time, and then to what point does it become a problem. And the back office is a really good example of where you can actually break something rather than add value. So thank you for that. And Katrina, NPP and how they plan to help consumers and businesses.
Thanks, Omaya. So we've seen a number of key benefits come out over the years since the NPP has been operating. So I think from a consumer perspective, as every payment is settled in real time, customers are getting their funds immediately. So there's definitely that speed element, but it's also been about convenience. So it's been about being able to pay someone at 2 in the morning if I want to, or on a public holiday. But what we've also seen is also customers are seeing it as a safer way to make payments as well. So when they're making a payment, they're leveraging their bank's authentication practices. And also if they're using our addressing service, PayID, which enables someone to use an email or phone number or a business registration number when they make a payment, they're actually getting confirmation of the person that they're paying as well before they make the payment. And what we've seen there is that's helped to reduce the number of mistaken payments that have happened as well. So there's that greater reassurance that I'm actually paying the person that I intend to. From a business perspective, I mean, similar to what Chris said, I mean, it's so much more than speed. It is about being able to have, again, that convenience of being able to make real-time payouts immediately. So whether that's for, a taxi driver on the weekend, which is one of the use cases that Zepto is supporting, or whether I'm, making a payment as an insurance company to someone for a claim, actually getting that money to them immediately. And that's really helped from a customer experience perspective. But it's also about the processing efficiencies as well. So using the data richness of the ISO 20022 message that the NPP supports, businesses can get information on what's happened with the payment. It'll help from a reconciliation perspective as well. So it helps to reduce some of that exceptions processing, greater payment accuracy and knowing immediately if a payment's been successful or not. And what we've also done is to build in some processes around how do you deal with when things go wrong, how do you deal with the exception processes as well, and try and automate some of that to make it a bit better than it used to be as well. So I think there's a number of benefits from a business perspective. And certainly what we've also seen increasingly in recent times with the COVID pandemic is also businesses using PayID and using the NPP as an option for accepting payments from their customers as well. So, I think it's been great to see it being supported from that perspective.
Yeah, and I know from, consumer experience view, having a PayID definitely reduces friction when you're in the payment channel. rather than having all these other things to remember and then input just to get out through the checkout experience. So PayID is a great consumer experience, definitely, and reduces a lot of friction. So well done to MPP. Now, my next question is feedback that you've received from the market, and I'm going to call on Matt to kick off that discussion around, what is the feedback you've received from the market? And I always love hearing the voice of the customer, so can't wait to hear what you have to say, Matt.
Look, I think from our perspective, being, I guess, what's a sort of a legacy business and upgrading ourselves into digital, it's become and we're a sort of B2B2C business as well. Like, we're selling into service providers that then take those services out to consumers and merchants. And I think that over recent months, it's been, oh, you can do that. It's like your business has changed. And I think there's a lot more of these conversations going around. Okay, how can we use this sort of upgraded card-based infrastructure to complement what's happening in the account-to-account world and actually just give choice? And all my experience in payments is the more choice you give to consumers to pay, the more likely they are to pay. So if merchants can accept more ways to receive a payment, you're more likely to get paid. So I think there's pros and cons with all these different payment options. So the fact that we've upgraded our network to provide another alternative for businesses to be able to pay out for consumers to get funds in real time, it's all going to be good for Australia and for Australian payments. So I think for me, it's just been that sort of surprise, that delight that we're in here to help solve a lot of these problems and can do so now after many years of not being able to. So I guess for me, that's probably the feedback we're getting that's coming through loud and clear. Thanks,
Matt. And Chris, what's the feedback you're getting from the market about your innovation?
Yeah, and I think I'd echo a lot of what Matt just said, and building on Katrina before talking about the PayID. I think there's 8.6 million-ish PayIDs now out there and growing, and we've seen an explosion of using that PayID for exactly that reason, and we've seen that across, in particular, like equity exchanges or putting trades on for crypto or whatever, where you can in real time fund your wallet to then go and put those trades on. And that's again, one of the things I guess we talk about here is that the awareness for a lot of merchants around what is possible in payments is quite often anchored to what has been possible. And once they're opening up, and as Matt said, they understand, I can actually do that, then it really changes the dimension that they're operating in. And we had a quick look back at the past 12 months. I know we're in October now, but at the end of June, we did a quick snapshot of the previous 12 months of our business. And what we saw is that the customers that were on our books for those 12 months, it almost doubled the transaction volume that they started to do on real-time rails, because it was really starting to enable them to engage with their consumers in a completely new level than they had previously done. So I think that speaks volumes to what is actually happening. That's not unique to Zepto. That's for anyone using real-time payments. The ability to connect and strategically enable their customers is huge.
And Katrina, no doubt you've had heaps of feedback from the market, because MPP's been very much involved in doing a lot of innovation work to build off the rails. Keen to hear what you've learnt.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Matt. And I think it's, as you mentioned before, it's really been about some of the personal stories that we've heard about as a result of the NPP. So, seeing the reaction of customers in social media when they've actually got their government payment for a COVID relief payment immediately, sort of within just being on the phone with half an hour with the government agency. It's hearing the stories about how the NPP has been used for on-demand pay, people being able to actually get the pay that they've earned. It just hasn't been paid out yet, but they've got access to those funds when they need them at a time when it's going to actually make a difference to their lives. Hearing from businesses who have been able to pivot during the times of the COVID pandemic to being able to accept payments remotely from their customers, because they've, a Pilates instructor has had to move from being able to see her customers in person and doing classes in person to actually doing that online and helping them deal with that payments element to it as well. And then hearing stories of like a young woman with a mild intellectual disability who's been able to actually successfully run her own business using PayID, because it means she doesn't have to handle the money. And so she can actually use that as a way of getting payments from customers. And she's been able to actually hire some additional staff as well to help her run that business. It's just the power of some of those stories has just been phenomenal. And to actually see how the platform is impacting people's day-to-day lives has been tremendous.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, all the hard work that goes into building all these rails, when you see the benefit it provides to consumers and businesses, and it's actually in those stories that it makes it worth it. So thank you for sharing those stories with us. I think where I want to go next is, you know, what is the next big thing for real-time payments? And I'll start with you, Katrina, please. That'll be great to hear from you.
Sure. So we're very excited about what next year might bring. So at the moment, the MPP supports just a simple credit transfer. So as a customer, I go and push a payment from my bank account. But next year, we're working very closely with the industry to deliver the capability that Chris mentioned earlier, which will kind of enable debit-like payments or pool payment capability from customers' bank accounts. So they'll be able to authorise those payments before they happen, and then the different third parties will be able to initiate those payments from customers' account. So that capability, PayTo, as it's been branded, really has the potential to transform how both people and businesses will make payments here in Australia, I think. And we've intentionally designed it to make sure that it can support a whole range of different use cases. So whether it's for recurring payments, if I want to pay my utility bill, if I want to shop online, or if I'm doing something in-app, how I can support the payments that are related to that. Providing more options around how I buy things like subscription services, pay for my Netflix. And for businesses, I think really there's such an opportunity around further extending the process efficiencies as well. So being able to automate the processing of e-invoices, you know, doing your payroll run from within your cloud accounting software provider environment, for example, as well as helping to reduce on the exception side and from a reconciliation perspective. And, you know, seeing it being used for things like smart contracts, with the ability to move funds together, you know, with real time, with the assets and change of ownership as well. So, you know, I think we're really just kind of scratching the surface in terms of what that capability can potentially do, but I think it will kind of have a fundamental impact on the market in terms of what's possible. And so that's certainly really exciting.
I'm actually very excited because it's PayTo is offering a fantastic consumer experience and putting them in control of their money and their contracts that they have with their service providers, but then at the same time helping merchants actually manage their digital contracts. And so I feel like here the key message is it's actually real time is not just about the payment, it's actually digitizing further down in the consumer experience to really offer benefit to consumers and businesses. So on that note, Matt, what's eftpos doing to improve consumers and businesses' experiences, and the next real big thing in real payments for eftpos?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's almost like the real-time payment option is a given, and the problem to solve is it's actually the elements that go in a retail payment sense that go around the payment. So we talk about our innovation, our investments now going into real sort of purchase experience transformation rather than just around the payment itself. So to bring that to life a little bit more, we recently announced in partnership with Coles and Woolies on the retail side. So for those aren't in Australia, that's sort of Australia two biggest sort of groceries and sort of retail groups. But also with support from Commonwealth Bank, where Omaya is from, and also with National Australia Bank from a merchant acceptance, a partnership around we've called it the EQR platform, and it's really about orchestrating these experiences. So in a retail context, it's about bringing into the payment experience flow, loyalty card recognition ability, pay with points, about to do split payments between a gift card and a debit card, or burn some points down. It's about bringing back in that long paper receipt that gets spat out in every supermarket checkout and bringing that back into a digital wallet experience. And so the platform will orchestrate all of those other elements of the purchase experience through API integrations into the platform and available to consumer through the payment app of their choice. So that's kind of where we're investing. It's around really that payment experience rather than the payment per se, but underpinning that it's choice, and real-time payments has to be a critical part of that. So Australia's in many ways we're catching up with some of the innovation that's happening in other parts of the world, but given where we're at, we think we can actually leapfrog that and bring some really impressive work for us to Australia. So we're certainly excited. Early days, but the interest levels have been through the roof for what we've announced. So we're really excited to be scaling out over the years ahead.
Yeah, and I also great innovation in particular because making it available to all merchants, and it's not just about the Coles and Woolies. It's creating a platform that meets all merchants and making it much easier for merchants to offer loyalty. And then on top of that, the consumer benefits because they're going to get their loyalty messaging or discounting right up front as part of the transaction flow. And, I had this little coupon sitting buried in my handbag. I don't need to worry about that anymore because eftpos is going to put it in my wallet and I'll be able to redeem it straight away.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. And it comes back to the point I made earlier that if it's not real time and digital, it's broken. And I think these investments start to really solve a lot of those quite broken kind of retail experiences that are out there today. So yeah, and the testing that's been done says it looks like we're onto a winner. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic journey for sure.
Well, without taking my CBA hat off, even just as a consumer, I can't wait for it to come to market. So, Chris, I know you Zepto's doing a whole lot for consumers and merchants. So, what's coming?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said at the start, Omaya, as well, that Zepto is combining real-time payments with open banking, and open banking here in Australia is still probably a few years behind what has been created and established and the momentum that in particular is available in the UK. But I think the value and the way it's evolving is incredibly exciting in terms of what we can unlock for the benefits, not only the consumer, but the merchant. It's sort of a win-win the way we see it. So we're still working around that. We recently, I think we're one of the first 20 companies in Australia to be accredited as a data recipient, which means that we can take, with the consent of consumer, can receive their data from a data holder to be able to inform and make a more complete payment experience on behalf of the consumer. And there's some really good use cases that are evolving right now. One of them is with us, we're powering some financial hardship models, which is quite interesting, whereby the consumer can basically nominate a threshold that they need to have in their bank account before they can pay off a bill if they're in financial hardship. So they can consent for us to be able to see their available funds, that once their funds go through that threshold that they've nominated, then the merchant can approach them, automate that journey to say, I know you've got the means based off your own threshold. Do you have the willingness now to pay off a portion, all of it, whatever? And then the consumer then can say yes, and then pay off as little or as much as they want against that liability that's outstanding. And what's incredibly interesting here is that some of the debts or the bad and doubtful debts that we've seen come through here have been recovered now at rates that are in excess of 70 or 80%, which is extraordinary. And so the merchant's happy, and equally, the person in financial hardship who doesn't want to be in that situation, doesn't want to have to go through, recounting the story to a multitude of people every other week, now can be really clear and clean in terms of when they can pay it back and be approached at the right time to get the most or the greatest chance of success in terms of repaying that back. So some amazing use cases that we feel we can't wait to continue to build upon that combine open banking with real-time payments as well.
Yep. Look, I'm a small business owner. My husband and I own a plumbing business, and I can actually see that use case working for small business as well, where cash flow is up and down, and you've got your bills to pay and supplies to pay. So no doubt, this use case that you're talking about could apply for businesses as well.
Yeah.
So over to the end of our session and our last question. So why is Sydney and New South Wales a great place for fintech to set up business? And I'll kick off with Chris on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we're committed to building and scaling a world-class technology company. And I think there's very few regional spaces in the world that can enable a business to do that. The infrastructure here in Byron Bay, for example, we've got an airport, we've got amazing internet, amazing connectivity and infrastructure around us. So I'm sort of speaking my own book here, because we're very fortunate in terms of our ability to be able to build that type of fintech business here in regional New South Wales. So yeah, extremely lucky, and I think yeah, very happy to be doing that.
I'm going to come and work with you, Chris. I want to move up to Byron, that is for sure. Katrina, Sydney, why is Sydney great for fintech?
I think for a number of reasons. I mean, I think from a personal perspective, having lived in a number of countries around the world, it's pretty hard to beat Sydney, I think, from a kind of quality of life perspective. So, you know, great scenery, good weather, good food. It's an amazing place to raise a family. I think from a business perspective, you know, you've got a highly skilled workforce, great infrastructure and facilities, you know, lots of government support as well. And I think from an innovation perspective, you know, there's been a great track record of what organisations have come out of Australia and where they've been able to go to. But, you know, I think certainly Australia more broadly is a great place for businesses to thrive. And I'm going to join you on that trip up to see Chris and the team. Little field trip up to Byron Bay, I think, is in order. So we'll be there. We'll come knocking on your door, Chris.
I'll come pick you up, Katrina. We'll go together. And Matt.
I think I'm going to echo Katrina's comments. Not so much about getting up to Byron, that'd be lovely, but about Sydney just being world class. And I've lived in big cities around the world, and there's a reason we came back to Sydney. I think it is a great place to bring up a family, but it's got just world class features as a major metropolitan Sydney, and it attracts great talent from around the world. It's got fantastic world-class universities producing new talent every year. And there's just a real energy and desire around innovation and a real technological know-how here. So I think there's a lot going on in Sydney as a magnet for innovation, and certainly the fintech scene is very alive and well. So I think it will continue. But no, it is a great place to live and work.
I agree. And also, I know that I'm not on the panel, I'm the moderator, but I'll just add one point, which is because it's such a multicultural country and city, you just get diversity in views and in opinions, in experiences. And I truly believe diversity builds ideas and ideas build ideas. And it's a formula for innovation. So I thank you all for joining the panel today, and have a great day.